Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the peak-to-peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
From the start you weren't a man to use the standard lines. You never tried to hit me up or ask me for my sign. You captured my attention.
The song that you are currently listening to is called You'd Say Anything. The lyrics were written by Pamela Rich, and the music was written by Laurie Dameron, and it's featured on Dameron's debut album, Utah Dream. You can find Utah Dream, as well as Looking Through the Blue and I Can't Wait to See You Again, and 3 standalone singles from Laurie Dameron wherever you get your music. Learn more about her by going to her website at lauriedameron.com, and be sure to see her live at Busey Brews very soon. More details coming up later in the episode.
I won't say I think you lie when you say those things to me. 'Cause I don't want to interfere with your creativity. Just when I think I've heard it all, you come up with something new to stimulate my senses and to keep me loving you.
Hello there, everybody. My local journalism as a whole. To subscribe today, you can head over to the mtnear.com, our primary website, and find the subscribe button at the top right corner of the website. If you subscribe, you'll get full access to our digital archive, scanned copies of the physical newspaper, and you can even choose to receive a physical newspaper subscription in your mailbox or send it to the mailbox of someone you love. If you're interested in subscribing to the Mountaineer, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com to subscribe today. And if you haven't subscribed before, then stay tuned to the end of this episode to get a special discount specifically for Mountaineer podcast listeners. And the second big announcement, of course, is about advertising. If you want to get your advertising in the Mountaineer newspaper or podcast, then be sure to visit the mtnear.com/advertise for more information about the options that are available. You can also contact ad sales at themountaineer.com or call 720-960-2900 to get more information today. All right, those are my big announcements. Let's jump right into this week's interview. Our guest this week. Do you mind introducing yourself real quick?
Okay. Hi, I'm Laurie D. or Laurie Dameron, and I never know what to call them. Singer-songwriter or composer. I never know how to introduce myself as far as that. And I've got such a wide repertoire, so covering just about every genre. And I've been playing professionally since about 1989, I would guess.
And we're here today, Laurie, to promote a show that you will be performing at Busey Brews very soon.
Yeah, well, I had a last-minute gig last Wednesday. Sydney needed somebody. Oh, my goodness, I was chilly. It was chilly. I sat right under one of the heat lamps, but that back porch, I forgot that all the windows are open. And when I first got there, it was really windy and I was freezing, but I did pretty good. But for some reason, my thighs. Next time I'm coming up there, I'm putting my long johns on. Yeah, I'm serious. She's a really nice Sydney. And then I think that Stephanie's the one that arranged the February 16th. Yeah. When I was there in the summer, what a beautiful, where they set up the music back in that corner, looking out those windows at the pine trees and the mountains. It was just so lovely to be able to play and have that view while I'm singing.
By the way, that surprise gig happened to be on New Year's Day 2025. And now she'll be coming back to Busey Brews on February 16th. We'll talk more about the details later in the episode. For now, though, I want to talk generally about your musical background, Laurie. How did you get started in music in the first place?
Well, I'm sure my mom taught me how to sing when I was probably 6 months old, but, and then when we would drive in the car, me and my mom and my sister, she somehow taught us how to do 3-part harmony. And then I probably started piano lessons when I was around 4 years old, and I hated being told what to do. My mom, she made me do ballet, tap dancing, acting classes, swimming. So anyway, when I was around 7, she started taking some guitar lessons, and I snuck into her room and started teaching myself how to play the guitar kind of as a rebellion. But anyway, I had a very troubling childhood. My dad was a drinker, and for some reason I took his side, and I didn't get along with my mom that well. But my mom, all my life, has been so supportive of my music. So my very first gig was at a bar. I don't know how they let me in because I was under 18, but it was on the Pearl Street Mall, and it was with Dave and Drew Emmitt. Drew Emmitt of Leftover Salmon and Drew Emmitt Band, Yeah, we were friends in junior high and high school. So yeah, that was my very first gig. And then I went to college at Adams State College in Alamosa. And for the last 2 years there, I was with Program Council, and I ran the open mic, and I did everything, and all the flyers and the marketing. And I also was a DJ for a little bit at the KSF FM there in Alamosa, and promoted the open mic through the radio and all kinds of stuff. And it was really, really fun. And, I was into collaborating with other musicians during that time. A really nice time of my life. Oh, and I should mention that I met Johnny Smith. A lot of people probably don't know that name, but he was a world-renowned fingerstyle jazz player. He didn't sing. And the only reason he stopped touring around the world, his wife passed away, and he was just devastated. And he had a music store in Colorado Springs. And I bought my guitar amp from him. And after I graduated, he offered me free lessons. I'll tell you what, I really only have 2 big regrets in my life. One of them was dropping out of Spanish in school because I'm too stoned, no comprende. The other was after I graduated, I drove down to Colorado Springs maybe 3 or 4 times, and he even gave me his music books. And I said, well, let me pay for these books at least. And he said, no, your payment will be to learn what's in these books. Well, so this was in 1983. And in the late fall, I decided to move to Summit County to be a drunken drug addict ski bum. And I never even said goodbye to Johnny Smith. I'm telling you, it's just the biggest regret of my life. I should have stuck with him. I'm kind of lazy and I procrastinate a lot. I've never been a very good practicer, but if I would have stayed with him, anyway.
I wanted to take a second before we continued with Laurie's story to talk about Johnny Henry Smith II. As Laurie just mentioned, Johnny had his own music store in Colorado Springs, which he focused on primarily after his wife passed away. Smith's wife actually passed away during childbirth, along with their second child. Of course, this left a massive impact on Johnny. Ultimately, the primary reason he cited for staying at the music store and not touring around as much is to make sure he focused on his daughter as much as he could. Smith still recorded, and he would occasionally play in Colorado nightclubs. But, of course, after that devastation, he stopped touring. He did make one exception, though. In 1977, he accompanied Bing Crosby on a tour that he went on in England just before Crosby passed away. I wanted to give that context of Johnny Smith's life as a musician before he passed in 2013. But now, let's transition back to Laurie and her personal and musical life once she moved to Summit County.
Well, so then my Summit County days were 83 to 87, and those were some of the funnest days of my life. We lived in this, we called it the Flying Nun house because the roof looked like the Flying Nun's hat, and there was 2 stories of glass, and it's up on the hill above Dillon, and the view, you could see the Gore Range, the Lake Dillon, and the 10 Mile Range, and I used to sit up in that balcony and play and write songs because seeing all that beauty, really helped my creativity. creativity, you know? And if I could buy that house, if I won the lottery, that's one of the first things I would do is get that house. But anyway, long story short, well, actually, what happened, there was the Colorado, I forget what it was called back then. Now it's called Colorado Music Business Organization, but back then it was something else, and they did a workshop in Breckenridge. And one of our assignments was to pick a partner, and I picked Pamela Rich, and she wrote the lyrics to a song, and I wrote the music. And to this day, I cannot find her. It's recorded on my first album, you know? I've tried to reach her to say, hey, our song is out there. I've never been able to find her. But anyway, I met a guy named Mark there, and I ended up moving down into Denver on Tennyson with him, and we were going to be a duo. Well, we played music all the time and recorded and stuff in his basement, but talk about drugs and alcohol. That was my last year of my struggle with drugs and alcohol. I got sober Thanksgiving of 1987, but that's all we did was do drugs and play music, and we never got out to any bars to try to play or anything. Anyway, that lasted a few months, and I moved back to Boulder, sleeping on my sister's couch. So getting sober is a big part of my story. I wouldn't have anything that I've had these last, it's been 37 years now, 38, 37, if I didn't have my sobriety. And so, yeah, I got sober 87. 88 or 89, I joined a big band orchestra called Mood Swing in Denver. And actually, the gal that was running that, her name is Laurie Dameron, and we have our Laurie and Laurie duo. That's her. She's the bass player for that. But that was really fun. I remember on New Year's Eve, we played at the Westin Hotel, which was really exciting. And then in like the early 90s, I can't remember what year it was, but I got with the post office, the U.S. Postal Service, and I did training, and I was going to become a letter carrier. And for some reason, they did all the training, and then they had you do a physical with the doctor. And I didn't pass the physical. It's a long story. But anyway, so that is when I started thinking about doing the music, doing like solo stuff. Well, and then Laurie and I, the Mood Swing, the big band, jazz band, only lasted, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And around 1991, we got Marianne Moore, who was one of the best jazz singers around here. She passed away several years ago, bless her heart, too soon. But we formed a band called Sister Swing. So there was me on the electric guitar, Laurie on bass and trombone, Marianne Moore on the vocals, Terry, I can't remember her last name, on the drums, and oh God, the keyboard. Anyway, we were the house band at Three Sisters, which is it used to be the oldest lesbian bar in Colorado. We were the house band one summer, and I can't believe I stayed sober through all of that. And it was so fun though, being the house band, playing every weekend there. And then I got my first solo gig at Muddy's Coffee. It was just a little ways down from Mercury Cafe, and I would play from like 10 p.m. until 2 or 3 in the morning. They got a lot of their clientele after the bars would close. Then they'd come to Muddy's Coffee. And I met Jeff Fournier there. I think that's where I met him. So that was about 1994. And I still play with him. He's a fabulous jazz bassist. Well, he can play any style, but he used to play on cruise ships. And oh boy, he's told me the funniest stories about the cruise ships. But anyway, yeah, that was my first paid gig. And then, you know, I've been struggling ever since.
I wanted to mention really quickly, the song that Laurie Dameron mentioned that Pamela Rich wrote lyrics for is on her debut record, Utah Dream, and the song is called You'd Say Anything. But it sounds like the big theme in regards to you writing, performing, and releasing music is just keeping moving forward with what you love to do.
But I do have to admit something. You know, like in college, I was so into collaborating with others and playing with other people. And in the 90s, maybe I wasn't the only one, but it had to do with a lot of ego. And it seemed like the music scene was very competitive. So for many years, that damn ego was messing with me. And now, well, the last many, many years, I love supporting other musicians, going out to hear other people. And I really want to do some collaborating with some songwriting too. That was a long wind, wasn't it?
Absolutely no worries. It was great getting all that history. And it sounds like through all the things that you ended up trying as a kid, music was really what connected with you most.
Yeah. Well, I kind of go back and forth with the whole astrology thing, but I have had my chart done a few times, and I've got these grand trines and a kite pattern, which means you're really creative in one area, and the planets that I have are in music. And more than one astrologer has told me that music comes so easily to me, and that's why I'm so lazy about practicing. I can almost hear a song and learn it in minutes. But yeah, I just have never been a very good practicer. I mean, if I was, I'd be so much better, if I would focus.
Well, I must emphasize for yourself and for everybody else listening to the podcast, you do have 3 full albums out now.
Yeah, I do have the 3 albums and 3 singles. Those last 3 singles I did with John McVeigh. He's a super engineer. And yeah, I do feel like I've had a very good life and I've enjoyed what I've done. And 3 albums, I feel pretty successful about that. But this last few years, though, I don't know what it is that I can't get back to the creativity and writing and recording. Like I said, I've got almost enough material for 2 more. I want to do another jazz CD and I want to do another folky environmental CD. And I get depressed. About it. It's the procrastination, And then I start beating myself up and then I go nowhere,
It's at this point where I wanted to open up to Laurie, because I wanted to promote her show for a very particular reason that I'll get into later. But I think that personal history does tie into the interview that Laurie and I ultimately had. I'm a musician myself. I started writing my own songs seriously when COVID first started. And over the last 5 years, I'm incredibly happy with how I've developed as a songwriter. But there were 1 or 2 years of that time where I did not write or perform nearly as much as I wanted to. I've also given myself a lot of flack for only being able to play chords on the guitar and ukulele instead of being able to play really complicated riffs on either of those instruments. Laurie had this to say in response.
Well, a rock guitarist plays 3 chords to thousands of people, and a jazz musician plays thousands of chords to 3 people.
And I do find that sentiment, unfortunately, very true. The songs with simpler structures are often more listened to and seen live than those with very complex chord progressions and melodic ideas. That's why I really do try and promote a wide range of musicians through Music of the Mountains, because I want to give every kind of musician their shout out, their spotlight. But what Laurie talked about with her lack of motivation and her decrease in productivity really resonated with me. The last 2 years I haven't felt as productive when it comes to writing and performing. Now, I feel like I'm getting back into the swing of things. And last month, I released my debut single, Now That I've Been Honest, with the help of the amazing local duo Strange Birds, Ray Smith, and Carrie Miner.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't tell you how exciting it was when my first album, Utah Dream, when they delivered the boxes to my apartment. I was living over on Colorado and 35th, and God, that was exciting. Getting that CD, it was just so cool. Well, I gotta say, I love playing music, but I hate the music business. Have you ever heard the Hunter S. Thompson quote? Well, here it is. The music business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side.
Now, I did look up the original Hunter S. Thompson quote because I was personally curious, and it turns out the internet has embellished it quite a bit. The original statement that Hunter S. Thompson once wrote didn't even involve the music business. Here's the quote that quote evolved from. The TV business is uglier than most things. It is normally perceived as some kind of cruel and shallow money trench through the heart of the journalism industry, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs for no good reason. Which is more or less true. For the most part, they are dirty little animals with huge brains and no pulse. The rest of the quote has somehow gotten embellished over the years, but truth be told, still very much sounds like a Hunter S. Thompson quote.
Well, and it sounds like the music business. I mean, oh my God, did you watch that? Yeah, it was about Spotify, the guy that created it. It was called The Playlist, a TV series, and it showed how, I can't remember his name, the guy that started Spotify. He was the first to do the streaming thing. And, you know, it showed his struggle with the big record companies and everything. But by the last two episodes, it was just so depressing because it's still those big record companies that are making billions and billions. And the guy that started Spotify, he makes billions every year. And what is it? 0.001 cents per stream. So if I get a song streamed 10,000 times, I get, wow, $10, you know? And Taylor Swift, she took herself off that platform for a while in protest, saying that he needed to pay the musicians more. And it's just, I just have to focus on enjoying playing. I am happiest when I'm making other people happy with my music, especially the senior gigs. I mean, those people are so thrilled when you come in there and especially play songs that they knew back in the 40s and 50s. And
in case you're curious, The Playlist is available on Netflix. It's a docudrama miniseries that focuses on Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify. I've always stood up for streaming generally because of the access to a massive archive of music that streaming allows people to have. But I also agree with Laurie here that the payment practices are really inconsistent and really unfair. So frankly, I'm still optimistic that somehow or other the infrastructure of those services will be sorted out in one way or another so that artists can be compensated fairly. But regardless of becoming successful or getting compensated for the music that you've released, Laurie, it sounds like you still love performing in general. So I'm curious, what keeps you coming back?
Oh, to keep playing? Because, just like I said, I'm just happiest when I'm playing music and making other people happy. Like, I do a variety of gigs, and I love to get recognition for my music, but I really am more concerned with just making a good living playing music instead of the fame part. And so I do a variety type of gigs, and some of my favorite gigs are private and corporate or events where I'm background. And some musicians don't like that because they feel like people aren't listening to their music, but music affects us at a certain level. So I'll do these gigs with the background music, and when people are leaving, they said, it sounded great. I know that it's doing what it's supposed to do. But that keeps me motivated to keep playing because I just feel so happy when I'm playing music. And I love it when it affects somebody and makes them happy.
So it really sounds like the best part for you about performing is just spreading joy through the music you play.
Yeah. Well, and then I changed my repertoire between gigs. Like last week, I ended up playing a lot of Grateful Dead and a little bit of bluegrass and for the different clientele, And then other gigs, I focused more on jazz. And I did have somebody complain to me. She didn't think that I should play folk, blues, and jazz in one concert. But I just love all the styles of music, and so I love playing all those different styles.
Now, as I mentioned, Laurie's story resonated with me very personally, but there is one very specific reason I wanted to find a way to promote her through Music of the Mountains in some way. I want to talk about the very first song I wrote that I was proud to show people. That song was written out of frustration from the COVID-19 pandemic. Visibly frustrated, my mom told me to go downstairs and write a song or something. I'd thought about writing songs before, but I hadn't really told either of my parents that I was interested in exploring that avenue. So I don't know where that suggestion came from. But either way, it made me realize it was worth it to sit down and at least try to write a song. I wrote that song in the course of an afternoon. It's called Call It a Day, and I ended up submitting it to a local talent competition called the Boulder Stars of Tomorrow. The Kiwanis Club of Boulder Stars of Tomorrow was meant particularly for youth performers in middle and high school to audition with their performances. And for this particular performance, I won Best Contemporary Performance for my song Call It a Day. Laurie, was one of the judges.
Oh, that's right. We talked about this.
Mhm.
Yeah. You play piano then? Did that take place at the Muse performance in Lafayette, or was it online?
Actually, in 2020, my song was performed on ukulele. The 2020 performance, of course, was completely online, but the previous year, in 2019, I did perform a piano rendition of Dodie Clark's 6 out of 10 for the 2019 Boulder Stars of Tomorrow event in Lafayette. And apparently, Laurie was a judge for that event, too.
Oh, right. Cool. In fact, do you remember Paul? I can't think of his last name. I'm with a thing called Boulder Time Bank, and it's a way for people to get what they need and do what they love, and they help each other. So, like, I give this gal rides to her medical appointments and her hair appointments, and I log my hours on the website, the Time Bank website. And then if I need help with, you can find just about any help for anything from massage to garden help, cleaning up your yard, organizing your house, fixing things. I mean, anything. And Paul, that's how I met this guy named Paul. And he asked me to do that judging those 2 years. So that's how that's how that gig happened. And I was really nervous about it at first, but I don't remember everything exactly, but I really enjoyed doing it those 2 years. Yeah.
And Paul Bailey was the organizer for all 4 years that I auditioned for the talent show. So a very special shout out to Paul Bailey. Those performances were always such a blast for me. So I assume those are the two big music events that you've ended up judging in your time, Laurie.
Yeah, I've never done it. Well, actually, I did get to, when was 2017? I think I did Zing for Zonta, which is Boulder's Got Talent. Zonta is a women's organization that helps with girls and women's issues. It's kind of like BPW. I was a member of Business Professional Women. But anyway, I was the contestant in 2017, and then, or it might have been 2016. Anyway, the next year they asked if I would be a judge. So I did get to be a judge for that. Zing for Zonta, Boulder's Got Talent. And that was really fun doing that too.
And by the way, along with judging those 3 particular local events, Laurie has gotten a ton of acclaim for her music and outside work. She's received 2 awards from Billboard magazine. She was a top 10 finalist in the 2011 World Peace Song Contest for her song What Can I Do? She received the Boulder Magazine's 2011 Reel Award. She passed the first round of the 2013 auditions for America's Got Talent. She won 3 years in a row for the Colorado Music Business Association Song Contest from 2013 to 2015. And she was a winner for her region of an Earth Day video contest in 2015 for her song Dying of Human Souls. She's also been heavily involved in Business and Professional Women of Colorado, which we'll talk more about in just a second. But especially in regards to your musical efforts, Laurie, is there anything that you hope people will take away from what you have to offer musically?
Well, just that they feel good after hearing the music, but I do have a few environmental songs, and my biggest hope is that that affects people. And, there's a line in Utah Dream. It's like I have to have my guitar with me to remember my lyrics. When will I be seeing you again? Never knew I'd miss you like a friend. Oh, solitude, it feels like the world's at peace again. Yeah, when I sing that song, Utah Dream, I feel at peace, and it feels like the whole world is at peace again. And so I hope that somebody might hear that line and feel peace, And then my other environmental songs, I believe in something greater. I believe in love. I believe in all of nature and something beyond and above. Well, anyway, yeah, it's just my hope that people will feel good, feel peace, and take simple actions themselves about climate change. I mentioned BPW. I've been a member of Business Professional Women since 2007 or 8, and I joined them to get my music on a more professional level at first, which it did. I got to play for a lot of their events and stuff. But BPW's been around since 1919, working on women's issues, and they were one of the first organizations to sign on to the Equal Rights Amendment written in 1923. But they've never had an environmental committee or leader until me. It's kind of a long story. I don't want to go. But in 2015, I became the chair of the environment, and I retired November of last year, 2023, to focus more on my music. And I had a lot of struggle with that transition because I felt like, oh my God, I'm just focusing on my music, how selfish. I'm not helping the planet anymore. I'm not helping people. But I got to remember that music, it helps people on different levels. You're driving in your car and you're in a bad mood and some song comes on and then you feel great. I mean, just music, it's a wonderful thing.
In regards to her environmental and business work, she won the Member of the Year Award for Business and Professional Women in Boulder in 2014 for her music and environmental work. She was a keynote speaker at the Enterprising Professional Women USA Biennial Conference in 2016, and in 2017 she won the Trailblazer Woman of the Year Award for the Business and Professional Women Boulder's Celebration of Women. Oh, and in 2012, she created a multimedia project called Spaceship Earth, What Can I Do?, that utilized live music, powerful images, and great storytelling to promote an environmental message. You can learn more about that project and Laurie's other ventures at her website, which I will promote at the end of the interview. But before we get to that point, is there anything else in general that you want to talk about, or anything coming up for you that you want to promote? Just anything in general you want to add?
I'm just trying to get some more listening room type gigs and better paying gigs. I did several libraries last year, and that was really enjoyable because the people are there to listen. And actually, I gotta tell you, the bigger the audience, the less nervous I am. But when you got that little audience and they're paying attention, that makes me nervous. I love traveling and I love playing in different places and to new people and meeting new people. I got to start figuring out my year here in January. It's a lot of people start booking in January. I know you're focusing on Netherlands, but I hope I can mention that I haven't had a regular gig since 2017. I was at a restaurant for 2 years with a regular work. But anyway, just recently I'm at Zeal almost every Saturday of every month. And Zeal is kind of near 30th and Pearl, and really, really good organic and locally sourced food when he can. So I got that. And then I got a second thing. The first Fridays of every month, I'm going to be at, it's called Ironwood Bar and Grill. The people, Noah and Tanya, that own Dagabi Kachina in North Boulder, which is super good food too. They open a second place at the golf course in Boulder, and it's called Ironwood Bar and Grill. So the first Fridays of the month, that's a regular thing. So I'm really grateful to have some regular work.
Here, Laurie mentioned fellow musicians that she remembers fondly.
Oh, I remember this guy's name, Phil. Did you ever know Phil that used to play Grateful Dead at Pioneer Inn? I can't think of his last name. I knew him and his girlfriend that when they got married. Trish was his girlfriend. And this was back in 2000, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was playing a lot at the Pioneer and the Wolf Tongue Brewery. But Phil, we would play a lot together. And then Charlie, I can't remember his last name. He's an incredible finger style.
The truth is, I can't find the last names of Phil, Trish, or Charlie anywhere online right now. So, if any of them are listening to this podcast right now, I would love to hear from you about your performance time in the Peak to Peak area. Or if anybody out there knows who they are, please send us a text. In the meantime, I think those are all the big questions I have on my end, Laurie.
Yeah, thanks for asking me. That's really sweet. Do you have a link to the ukulele song that you did? I've done that too, because I want to be reminded about that. It's so awesome.
There is a link to that performance. I sent it to Laurie as a surprise for all of you guys. If you're curious enough, I'm going to leave that link for you guys in the description of this podcast episode. In fact, if you head to that link, you'll find a comment that Laurie left as a judge for the Boulder Stars of Tomorrow. Hey James, very sweet song. I think you have a future in songwriting. I didn't connect until very recently that this comment was made by Laurie Dameron, but once I did, I knew I had to bring her on. So I'm very grateful to have gotten the chance to interview you, Laurie.
All the best to you in 2025.
And all the best to you in 2025 as well, Laurie. Thank you so much for coming on board and joining us for the podcast. Laurie will be performing at Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Netherlands on Sunday, February 16th, 2025, starting at 2 p.m. Be sure to head over there if you want to see her perform live. You can also find 3 albums of hers: Utah Dream, Looking Through the Blue, and I Can't Wait to See You Again, as well as 3 standalone singles, What Can I Do, Good Night, Sweet Baby, Sweet Dreams, and Oh, I Wanna Smoke Marijuana, wherever you get your music. Finally, to learn more about Laurie Dameron as a musician, be sure to head to her website at lauriedameron.com. And now, for this week's Music Mentions. Head to Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Netherland on Sunday, February 16th, starting at 2 p.m. to see Laurie Dameron performing live. Head to Eldora Mountain Resort, located primarily at 2861 Eldora Ski Road in Netherland, for a ton of performances coming up very soon. Head over there on Wednesday, February 12th, starting at noon, to see Sarah Banker performing in Timbers Tap House. On Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, at 9 a.m., to see DJ Swing Set in the Boombox. Again on Valentine's Day, starting at noon, to see Matt Flaherty, the artist-in-residence, performing in Timbers Tap House. On Saturday, February 15th at 9 a.m., to see Candace Rose in the Boombox. On Saturday, February 15th at noon, to see Nick Zamora in Timbers Tap House. On Sunday, February 16th, starting at 9 a.m., to see Mizzy and Gehrig in the Boombox. And on Sunday, February 16th, starting at noon, to see Anders Hagstrom in Timbers Tap House. Head to the Gold Hill General Store, located at 531 Main Street in Gold Hill, on Friday, February 14th at 7 p.m. to see Haley Harkin performing live. The next day, on Saturday, February 15th, starting at 7 p.m., Brendan Forrest will be performing at the Gold Hill General Store. And the next day, on Sunday, February 16th, see him performing at Howlin' Wind Brewing and Blending, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville. Usually, if I interview somebody to focus on them for the Music of the Mountains column, I try to make sure there's at least a week ahead of time before their show. However, I ended up interviewing Brendan for next week's Music of the Mountains, which will be only a couple of days before both shows. So be sure to put both or either of those shows on your calendar, and I'll introduce you to Brendan in next week's Music of the Mountains. As of the recording of this podcast episode, I do not have an exact time for you on when Brendan is performing at Howlin' Wind. I can tell you that he will be performing on Sunday, February 16th. So I will mention exactly what time in his episode and column of Music of the Mountains. You can also head to Howlin' Wind Brewing and Blending, located at 51A Main Street in Rollinsville, on Saturday, February 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Windy Pines performing live. Head to the Jamestown Mercantile, located at 108 Main Street in Jamestown, on Wednesday, February 12th, starting at 5 p.m. for an open mic night. On Thursday, February 13th, starting at 7 p.m. to see Lost Bobcat performing live. And on Sunday, February 16th, starting at 10 a.m. to see Joseph Teichman performing live. Head to Knotted Root Brewing, located at 250 North Caribou Street in Netherland, for their regularly scheduled music events. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. they host open mic nights. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. they host DJ nights. Every second Friday of the month at 7:30 p.m. they host reggae DJ nights. And every Sunday at 5 p.m. they host Jazz Sundays. Head to the Caribou Room, located at 55 Indian Peaks Drive in Netherland, on Friday, February 14th, to see the Daniel Rodriguez Band performing live, with a very special opening band consisting of Benny Burl Galloway, Eric Tureen, and Sally Van Meter. Doors open and dinner starts at 7 p.m. and the show starts at 8 p.m. To get your tickets in advance, head over to thecaribouroom.com. And to learn more about the show, and particularly Daniel and Burl, be sure to check out the previous episode of Music of the Mountains. And finally, pick your preference. If you want to head over to Gilpin County, then be sure to head over to Very Nice Brewing Company at 180 Jankowski Drive in Blackhawk on Saturday, February 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see Eric Stone performing live. If you want to head over to Netherland, be sure to head to the location at 20 East Lakeview Drive, number 112 in the Caribou Village Shopping Center on Saturday, February 15th, starting at 5 p.m. to see David Tillman performing live. Did we miss you or any of your performances? Do you want to submit your music listing in the Peak to Peak area? Do you have updates to your business or to your performances? Please call 303-810-5409 or email info@themountaineer.com to be included in the next print edition or the next podcast of The Mountaineer. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to this week's Music of the Mountains, Where to Be and What to See, brought to you by the Mountaineer Podcast. I'll be back in a couple of days with another regularly scheduled episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. In the meantime, if you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to our website at the mtnear.com and scroll near to the bottom, or head to our podcast's main hub at the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com to see a full archive of all of our episodes. If you want to be involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, if you have a story that you want to tell, or you have advertising you want us to put on here, whatever the case may be, email me at media@themountaineer.com and we'll get something sorted for you. And if you're interested in giving us feedback about the podcast, then check out any of our individual episode descriptions and send us a text. Let us know what you think. I'll see you guys in a couple of days with the next episode of the Mountaineer Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Utah dream keeps running over through my mind. Utah dream, just get me there and I'll be fine. The more I see.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Utah Dream, and it's the title track from Laurie Dameron's debut album, which you can find along with her other two albums, Looking Through the Blue and I Can't Wait to See You Again, and 3 standalone singles wherever you get your music. If you want to learn more about Laurie as a musician, then be sure to head to her website at lauriedameron.com. And if you want to see her performing live, then be sure to head over to Busey Brews, located at 70 East 1st Street in Netherland, on Sunday, February 16th, 2025, starting at 2 p.m.
When you're there, it's like something from a movie scene. Nowhere, nothing like a Utah dream. Firelight dancing on the canyon walls. Desert storm kinda makes you feel small. Colors there that you've never even seen before. So much Utah dust, you could never be born.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.